there, my name is Kathy, and thank you so much for coming to my channel, Crafty Kathy. If this is your first time ever coming to my channel, I'd like to say welcome and thank you so very much for stopping by. And if you're returning, you guys know I love you from the bottom of my heart. Today, I'm super duper excited. I am doing a collab with Country Lily DIY. I am super over the moon excited about it. I have loved Miss Barbara for a long time. I admire her and I think she is an awesome DIYer. We're going to talk a little bit more about Country Lily DIY just a little bit later on in the video. But for right now, I want to tell you guys thank you so very much because guess what? We are at 7,000 subscribers. We're a little bit over 7,000 right now, but we've reached our 7,000 mark. That means my next video, I am coordinating a giveaway, so you don't want to miss the very next video, which is going to be on the 9th. I'm going to be doing another special collab on that day, but I can't tell you about it right now. It's a secret. And what I've been working on this week is some fall Dollar Tree cottage style DIYs. Oh yeah, they turned out gorgeous. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Come on, become a part of our little family here on YouTube. You're going to love it. Our motto is we have love and laughs and DIYs. We have a lot of love in our little community. We even pray for each other. We have a lot of laughs. It's always a hoot around here. And not to forget, we have the DIYs. And I wanted to thank a couple of my subscribers that sent me some goodie boxes this week. Look at this little owl from Crackle Barrel, and you pull its leg, and it's a tape measure. How cute is that? And then we got Life is Better with Chickens Around and Talk Shiplap to Me. These are so cute. And I got some cards and some other things. And I want to thank you guys for doing that. And for everyone who has done buy me a coffee or anything to support my little channel. Even just watching my channel and definitely becoming a subscriber supports my channel. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for each and every one. All right, guys, we won't take up any more of your time. So I brought out the executive producer so we can sing our silly little theme song because that's all we have left to do. And then we're going to jump into the DIYs. Are you ready to sing our silly little theme song? Okay. On our channel, we got love and laughs and DIYs. 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 Yeah. Hoo-hoo-hoo, baby. Yeah. I just love you so much, Debbie, from the bottom of my heart. I'm not paying you extra for the extra howling. Y'all didn't hear that. He already charges me double time on Saturdays. Goodness, let's jump into DIY number 1. We're going to make a Dollar Tree lantern. I have 4 picture frames that came from the Dollar Tree. They are 5x7s, and this is a new style that they're carrying. I'm just going to open them up, take everything out, including the glass, and I'm also going to take out those little tabs, those little black tabs that hold the glass in. Then we're going to start by just putting them together side by side, and you just glue them together. Don't worry too much if you get some glue that's showing in the corners because we're going to totally cover that up and it doesn't matter at all. And you do just have to hold on to them for just a few seconds to make sure that they're going to stick really well. I have a package of these wooden dowels that came from Walmart, and all I'm going to do is measure to see how tall it needs to go in that little area right there where I glued the frames together. Then I'm going to mark it and cut it down with my little miter shears. After I cut it, I stained it with the Waverly Antique Wax with just a baby wipe. And all I'm going to do is go down the seam, and then I'm just going to lay the stick right in the middle of the seam, and I'm going to do that all the way around. There's only 4 sticks that you have to put on here. And it's very simple, guys. This is such an easy DIY, and it turns out beautiful. I think this is just the second lantern that I've ever made on my channel, and I like this one a lot better because I put a little extra to this one. To make the bottom of the lantern, we're using these jumbo popsicle sticks that come from Walmart. All I'm going to do is lay them across the bottom. It took 6 of them, and then I mark them where I need to cut them. I cut them off with my miter shears, and then I'm simply just going to glue them to the bottom. And I used the first one that I actually cut to be a template for the rest of them. It was super easy, and I'm just gluing each one to the bottom here. Now I'm just going to glue the glass back in each one. I was trying to get my glue gun to fit exactly right to do this, so it was a little tedious whenever I started getting a couple glasses in there. But you know, there's a little lip already made out for the glass, and all you do is just put a little bit of that hot glue and lay your glass on it and just give it a second so that it can stick. I should have done this before I glued these down, but you live and learn. I took my antique wax from Waverly, and I just used a baby wipe and a paintbrush to get it on the bottom and then to wipe it off, and then I just let it thoroughly dry. I have a top to a candle that I had previously used, and then these 2 boxes that came from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to sand down this top box because it just needed it, and then I'm going to give it a few good coats of paint after I wipe it off. Then I just take my Waverly paint in truffle. I gave that biggest box 2 coats, and then the Bless Your Heart box, that white box, it also took 2 coats and a little bit of extra, so I guess you could say 2.5 coats. And then on the sides of the boxes, I purposely kind of was very wishy-washy with my painting and very haphazard because it was black at first and I wanted some of that to show through and look very rustic. The very top piece, which is the top to a candle, was already painted with the antique Waverly wax, but I painted it with the truffle also. I have this random piece of hard plastic. I have no clue where it came from, but I was like, oh good, I can use this. So it was painted black, and I just kind of put a couple of little brown stripes with that truffle color just so it would look rustic also. And what I'm going to do is take 2 small pieces, about 4 inches of that jute wire, you know, the jute that has the little wiring through it. I made a circle, and then I'm going to put it inside that hard plastic and just glue it in. I had twisted it together just so it would look like one, you know, larger complete piece. And then I'm just going to glue that right on the very top of that candle topper. Then I'm going to take that smallest box and I'm going to glue it onto that larger box. Then I am going to measure, make sure that everything is correct. Then I put that candle topper on the very top, and that is the top of my lantern. I've got some of those wooden dowels that come from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take 4 of those and I'm going to paint them with the antique Waverly wax. Then I just wipe off the excess with the baby wipe. They just so happen to be the exact size of that smaller box, and so I glued 1 to each side of that box to cover that little area that was kind of open. Then I burn off any little fuzzy flyaways that's on my jute wire. I decided to kick this lantern up a notch. I'm going to use this little candlestick that I got for $1.99 at the thrift store. And I'm going to place my lantern on top of it so it will be beautiful and a little bit different from the other lanterns that I've seen before. In order for it to have the best bond I can think of, I'm going to use my Starbond products. I laid the lantern down on its side, and I'm going to use the medium hold in the Starbond glue.
and I'm going to use that spray accelerator because it freezes it hard and instantly it will stick. So I put it down in a couple of spots around the top of the candlestick, and where I did not put that glue, I put the hot glue. And then I'm just going to spray the accelerator on the bottom of the lantern and set the lantern up there, and it was stuck. And then I just made sure that I had the placement correct. I'm going to use my DIY brand white wax because I have this orange and gold toned pumpkin that I got from the Dollar Tree, and this is supposed to be a cottage style DIY, so I'm going to tone this pumpkin down a little bit by just wiping a tiny bit of my white wax on the pumpkin and then wiping it off with a baby wipe. The colors that are a part of the cottage style theme are very muted. They are oranges and blues, but they are very light and pale, and that's what I wanted to do with my pumpkin. Now, the blue pumpkin that I'm also going to use is from a previous DIY, and it already had the white wax on it. I'm going to adjust my camera and push it up just a little bit so you can see everything that I put inside my lantern, because this is where the magic happens. And I put down my blue pumpkin first because that orange pumpkin had a hole in the bottom, and it was perfect because I could stick that stem of the blue right into that orange, and it was just perfect. Then I'm going to use these very muted yellow toned leaves that are the maple leaves that come from the Dollar Tree. And I absolutely love this beigey orange colored dahlia bush, and I just used one flower off of it. And then I laid down one of those white burlap looking flowers. And then I have these orange flowers that came from Amazon, and I will link them below. And I just dropped a few of the leaves in there. I didn't want to put too much and make it very overwhelming. I added this adorable little owl figurine that I had from last year, but I ended up swapping it to another one later. I added a couple of the small little pine cones that come from the Dollar Tree. This is a tiny little pumpkin that came from my pine cone pack, and when I went to the beach, I found these magnolia stems that was dried out and this acorn looking thing, and I just added those in there too because I gathered some of those. I took some clear colored Christmas lights that I had because I wanted to be able to plug these in and unplug them. And I just took a tie wrap and I wrapped it around the center so that they would kind of stay together. And then I just stuck it to the very top. I glued that tie wrap to the top of the box. And then voila, I've got my lights. All I have to do is plug those in. I added another one of those maple flowers and one of those dahlia stems to the very top of my lantern, and it took this lantern from just a regular old Dollar Tree lantern to something very almost high-end, rustic, and modern. It's very beautiful, very cottage style, and by me putting it on that candlestick, it elevated it to something that looked like it came from Hobby Lobby or Kirkland's. You would never know that this was a Dollar Tree lantern, and I'm so super happy with this DIY. Take a look for yourself. Let me know what you think about it. Here it is with the lights off, because that way I figured maybe you could see kind of a little bit what it looks like when it's lit up. I just think it's really pretty, and if you wanted to, you could put one of those battery operated lights in there, but I wanted one that I could plug in and unplug. So it's your prerogative if you like it better the other way. But I am so happy with this lamp. I hope you guys like it. Hey, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to hit that little red subscribe button. And see that little bell beside it? Click it. And a drop-down box will pop up and you can hit all and see all my videos when they come up on YouTube. Let's go into DIY number 2. We are going to make a beautiful wreath by using these simple florals, and look at this cute little truck that came from the Dollar Tree. It was in one of those little things that you stick in the ground outside. And then I'm just going to use these random little florals that come from mostly Dollar Tree. Some of them came from Amazon. And these beautiful white pumpkins, they were from Dollar Tree this year, which I absolutely love those. I'm simply going to take these green ferns that come from Walmart, and I'm just going to put a couple of those in the bottom, and I'm only putting those in for filler. After I added the greenery, I took one of those leaf garlands that came from the Dollar Tree, and I just simply wove it around and kind of wrapped it around my wreath. I didn't glue hardly anything to this wreath because I like to reuse my stuff, and if you use glue, you have to pull it off and it can damage it. So I just kind of wove it in and out where it needed to go. A lot of these flowers were twisted and turned around and all that stuff where they had been in a box for a whole year. So I had to just kind of straighten them out and play with them and get everything in position of where I wanted it. I added a few of those brown burlap leaves that came from the Dollar Tree. And those were very simple to put on. They had a wire connected to them, so all you had to do was wrap the wire around. Now, here I showed myself putting down 2 or 3 of these leaves, but in the end, I only used one. I cut the stem off of this beautiful bright orange eucalyptus stem that I got off of Amazon, and it is in my Amazon store. And I just used a couple of the sprigs. I put them on the sides and then 1 or 2 up toward the top, and it was just to give it a little bit of color, a little pop of color, and a little filler at the same time. I have a stem just called pumpkin filler, which is basically these small pumpkins with leaves, and I used 2 of those stems. And then I must have done this off camera, but I also added some of my favorite flowers from Dollar Tree this fall called bittersweet, and I added a cattail and a cotton stem. I stuck one of the small white pumpkins from the Dollar Tree on the very bottom. I had 2 black tie wraps that I'm going to secure together because I'm going to lay them down on the back of this truck. And I have 3 of the tumbling tower pieces that I had glued together to make like a little plaque. And I glued that on top of those tie wraps. Then I'm going to flip my wreath over and secure that together. That way my little truck will not move at all. Lastly, I took 2 of those little acorn pieces that I got from Florida, and I'm going to glue those in 2 random places, and that is it. That's my wreath, and it's beautiful. This was so simple to make. It was so beautiful, and I'm really proud of this one. Guys, we are moving so quick. Let's talk about Miss Country Lily DIY Decor. I am so proud to be in this collab with Miss Barbara. She is one of the best DIYers that I have seen on YouTube. If you have not been to her channel yet, please go check her out when you finish with my video. And I hope that you will subscribe to her channel. But I know after you watch her video, you will subscribe. She's been on YouTube for about a year, and she already has about 50,000 subscribers. I mean, if that tells you anything, she is amazing. She does a lot of farmhouse, and she does a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs, which is what everybody loves to see. Go check out Miss Barbara. You're going to love her. She's one of the first I ever saw, and I've never stopped watching her since. Let's do DIY number 3. This is the very easiest of all of my DIYs. You just need a few items, and you can make yourself a faux glass pumpkin from Dollar Tree. I used 1 pack of those clear shower curtain rings. There's 12 in a pack, and you need something that's going to go to the middle that you're going to stick your shower rings to. And I thought of a cork. I've seen other people do them with various things, but when I saw the cork laying there, I thought that's going to be perfect. So I took my cork and I painted it with my Truffle Waverly chalk paint. I just gave it 1 good quick little coat and I let it dry. After I dried my cork, I took that thicker jute twine that comes from the Walmart and I glued it to the cork, and I started winding it around because I wanted this to be what you see when you look at the pumpkin for the stem. I cut my twine off, and then I burn off all the little fuzzy wuzzies that comes on the jute. Just be careful when you're doing this. This intimidates a lot of people, but I used the fire for a long time and I haven't burned anything down yet. So I just try to be very careful. So you just put some hot glue on the two sides that connect. You know where the shower curtains where you would clip them together, and you put your glue and you just hold it to the cork for just a few seconds so it will stick. I put one on each side, and then I put another one and one on the sides. You can see what I'm doing. It's probably easier to watch what I'm doing here than it is to explain. So I had a total of 12 of these little shower curtain rings, and I used all 12 of them. Now you can use 8, and 8 would look great. It's not going to really matter. But I wanted to add the couple extra of them because, I mean, I had them. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll show you what it looks like with 8. Like here is 8 right here. And if you look, my pumpkin looks totally complete with just 8. But I had to go a little extra, so I added the other 4. I saw this in the Farmhouse DIY Facebook group that I'm a part of, and I thought it was an excellent idea. And then they took some paddle wire for the middle. I didn't have any paddle wire. I took this silver pipe cleaner because the silver wouldn't even show, and actually I thought that was a better idea than the paddle wire. You know, that's a good thing, is you can take something that you've seen and you can add your own creation to it and make it all your own, because I haven't seen anyone else use the cork either. So what I did was run it all the way through those rings, and then I tightened it up and then clipped off the excess. And pretty much there's your pumpkin. You can stop right there if you want to, but I didn't want to. I wanted to add a little bit of extra embellishments. I took some of the Waverly Moss chalk paint, and I'm going to paint 2 of these little wooden leaves that I got off of Amazon, and they are linked below in my Amazon store. And I just used my finger to make the shape of the rest of the stem of this pumpkin that I wanted. I just knew I was going to burn my finger off, so I thought the best thing to do would just be to take the twine and run it around a cork. And what I did was I would take the glue and put it on the jute twine and then wrap it around. So basically, I am gluing the jute twine to itself only to make the rest of a little bit of a stem, because I didn't think the cork was enough. So I just made it to where it came to a point at the top, and then I used a paintbrush to push down the very end of the jute twine down inside that stem, so it looked like a perfect little pumpkin stem when I finished. Then I burn off all the little fuzzy wuzzies from the stem, and I really used the fire on this for a while, because when you do that, it creates a darker color on the jute twine, and I like that. So I used that to make it look like a really, really dark, darker brown pumpkin stem. Then I glued my 2 little leaves to the top of that jute so they look like they were standing up behind it. Then I took some of the pit berries that come from the Dollar Tree. I absolutely love these things, and I love using them like they're the little tendrils of a pumpkin. And I just wrapped them around my fingers to get the shape that I want, and I glued them behind the stem of the pumpkin. Look at this adorable little bow that I have from TotallyDazzled.com. I thought that would be really cute to embellish my pumpkin with this little bow. It was the perfect touch for my pumpkin. And I think my pumpkin is very different from the others I've seen, and I think it's adorable. So easy and too stinking cute. Look at this thing. Oh, I love it. I stuck in a piece of that little green wheat that I got from Amazon just for a little extra something something on the top. And we're going into our very last DIY, number 4. All right, I've got one of these Thankful and Blessed pumpkins. It comes from the Dollar Tree, of course, and I'm just cutting off all the little embellishments on it. Sometimes you have a little bit of trouble with those leaves, and I did, but I popped it off finally. And I want you guys to see this gorgeous bandana that I got. I cannot believe that I found this thing at the Dollar Tree. And the colors are so beautiful. It's this blue and this like a salmon or a rose color. Oh, it's just gorgeous. And right away when I saw it, I immediately knew that I wanted to put it on a pumpkin. So the first thing that I did was just laid it out to see exactly how much I needed and where I wanted the colors at, because I specifically wanted the floral, the flowers around the bottom part of the pumpkin. But first I got to cover up the back of this thing because it was driving me crazy with all that glitter. So I've got this beautiful paper that I got from the Dollar Tree, and it looks like wood. It's a light color. The only place I've been able to find this is a little place in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the small Dollar Trees there. I promise you, Tennessee, for whatever reason, does not carry this paper at all. And so I just put down a little bit of my glue stick, well, a lot of my glue stick, all over my pumpkin. I was really purposely getting a lot of it around the edges so that my paper would just stick. And it did. It stuck beautifully. Then I just cut off the excess, and what little bit was left, I just used my little finger sander, which is the best thing in the world. It's linked in my Amazon store if you guys want one of these. You will never regret having one of these. It's one of my favorite crafting tools I have. And you just do it away from you, and it so easily gets that paper right off. I'm sorry that you can't see it that well, but when I lay it on the table and do it, it shakes the whole camera, and I didn't want you guys to get sick from watching the camera bobbing around. But see, all I do is just use it, and it's very easy to get that excess paper off there. So I decided that I was going to have to paint this pumpkin, because if I left it the wood color, it's going to show through, right? So I took this home decor brand that's called Sheepskin is the color, sheepskin. It's almost like a beige. So all I did was one quick coat, a very thin coat over my pumpkin. I meant to tell you guys that the other day my sister got a cancer scan, and it wasn't good news. And so for right now, she has decided to continue to go to Nashville every week for her treatment that she's doing. And she gets another scan in 8 weeks. If it's still not good, she's going to go back on the chemo. And I thank each and every one of you guys who've asked about her, who've prayed for her. And just know that I pray for every one of y'all that asked me to also. And we love y'all. I put a pretty good amount of Mod Podge down starting on the side. It wasn't like sopping wet or goopy, but this is a bandana. It's a little bit thicker, and you want to make sure that it sticks. And I like to use my little Mod Podge roller to get out if there's any wrinkles, but this did not have any wrinkles in it whatsoever when I finished. And if you are doing something with decoupage and you are getting wrinkles, just use some saran wrap. I'm usually too lazy to take my fat butt back inside the house and get some saran wrap from the kitchen. So sometimes I do get wrinkles and things, but a bandana is pretty easy to accomplish no wrinkles, So this turned out very well. And then I put me a good layer of Mod Podge over the top when I was finished, and then let it dry completely before I went on to my next step. All right, I've got 2 pumpkins here that I have used from a previous DIY, and we're just going to paint over them. I love to reuse my stuff if I'm not using it anymore, and I'm using, the first color that I used was Home Decor brand called Sunset Rose. And look how beautiful this color is, y'all. But after I painted it, I realized it's not the color of pink that I want. Like, it wasn't really bright enough. It wasn't that exact color of pink that was in that bandana like I wanted. So I went ahead and dried it, but then I swapped up my color. And the second color that I used was called Salmon. And I painted the other pumpkin, the small one here, with sheepskin, which is that home decor color. I'm so country, it's hard for me to say this, but it's salmon. S-A-L-M-O-N, like the fish. That's this color. And this is beautiful. It is the exact color that was in that bandana. And this is like my favorite colors, like that blush, rosy, peachy pink kind of color. My favorite color. So I absolutely loved these. Then what I did after I got these good and dry is I took that sheepskin color and I'm going to make the little dimples or the little indentions in the pumpkin with the opposite colors. Here I'm doing the sheepskin in that salmon color, and I'm going to flip around on my pumpkin that is the white, the sheepskin color, and use the salmon on it for the little dimples and to go all the way around the edges. This was a cute effect. You know, we're used to distressing with like antique wax and stuff like that, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. And yes, I used my finger. You know, I've told you guys a million times that sometimes a finger is just the best thing to get in there and get it, you know, done. And when I did use my finger and run it back and forth, it made the most beautiful, like textured color. It's hard to describe what I mean, but it was really pretty. I painted the stems with the truffle by Waverly, although I don't know why I colored them because I just wrapped it with jute twine. I guess my thought process was just in case, you know, the jute twine didn't totally cover. So I just put a dab of glue on the back and I wound it around and around and then glued it again, then cut it off, and that was my little stem. I always make sure that I get any kind of little fuzzies or anything that's on the stems. Then I did the exact same thing with my pink pumpkin. Now that the Mod Podge is dry, I used scissors to get as close as I could to the pumpkin, and then I'm going to use my little finger sander to get the rest off. It worked like a charm. Then the same process, I wrap the stem with the jute twine and then I burn off all the little fuzzies. I've got this little box decor that came from Dollar Tree last year, and I don't remember what it had on the front of it, but it was around fall time when it came out. What I'm going to do, it's already gray, like the elephant color by Waverly, so I just very, you know, sloppily went over it with the color sheepskin, like very wishy-washy. And my plan is to glue my pumpkin to this, but I want the part that's open to be sticking up in the back so I can stick flowers in it. So when I figure out the placement of my pumpkins for the front, I glue the biggest one, the salmon colored one, on, and I put it on the left side. Then kind of right in front of it is where I'm going to put the white one, the color sheepskin. And I'm going to put them kind of side by side. And then I have this beautiful wooden decor that came from Hobby Lobby, and it's $3.99, but you get it for 40% off. So it was basically about $2 is all you pay for this. It's good thick wood. It's beautiful. It says faith, hope, and love, and I just absolutely love that. My thought process was here to let some of that wood color show, so I used the color sheepskin to go over faith and kind of half of the word hope. Then on the word love, I'm going to use that salmon color and cover it. And I'm kind of doing it like distressing, you know. That's kind of how I'm painting this, like I'm distressing it almost, so that wood color will show. So I do the word love and half of the color of hope in salmon. I kind of wanted it to be like an ombre effect where the word hope is almost like ombre. It's both colors. Then I'm going to glue that right on the front of my pumpkin. This is such an easy Dollar Tree DIY, and it is so stinking cute, y'all. It is adorable. All except for that little Hobby Lobby, wood piece. It's Dollar Tree. Look at these beautiful Dollar Tree flowers. They're called hop bush, and the color is just glorious. So I cut these apart. I'm going to put 3 of them in the back, sticking out from the right side of the pumpkin. And then I'm going to put 2 sticking out from the other side of the pumpkin on the left side. I put down a couple of pieces of floral foam so I can have better control of where I'm putting my flowers. After I got all of my flowers on the way that I wanted them, I had a couple of little wood leaves that actually came on one of these pumpkins, and I took it off, and I'm just going to stick them right back on because they're already colored with the Waverly antique wax, and so I'm just going to stick them right back on. Why not reuse them, I took a little pine cone out of my pack and I put it by one of the pumpkins because why not? At this point, I couldn't stop. I was just going crazy. I was thinking of all different kinds of things to add to this. And I even added a white hydrangea bush just so it would mix in and look beautiful. And this was my favorite DIY. I think it is just awesome. I reused a little lace ribbon that came on one of the pumpkins that I ripped off at the first of the DIY, stuck it on the salmon, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to put a little jute twine ribbon on. So I wrapped some jute twine around my fingers 5 times. Just a very simple little jute twine bow where you tie it in the middle, and this thing was just beautiful. This is my favorite. I think this is just too stinking cute. I am loving these colors for fall. Now I have a few clips of the kiddos. Not many this week, but a few. Here's Loretta outside the front door, just sitting and waiting on me. All day long, every day. She's just standing there looking. Now she hears me talking because she's spinning that head around. She says, I've been standing in this lunch line forever waiting on my mealworms. Yeah. Donna. And we have a new member of the family. She's a rescue cat. We got her from the Humane Society. Her name is Lola Kitty, or Kitty Lola, and she is the sweetest little thing. And Sabby doesn't know what to think about her yet. He likes her food, and she likes his. I'll see y'all soon. Love you.